call the City Council work session to order. We are streaming this work session and we'll be voting on archiving it at Monday night's council meeting. We're going to begin with item number 1, the capital improvement plan.
Okay, I left you guys the progress report there. At your stations, it has kind of a list of, well, it's not a list of where we were. We presented a similar list back in mid-year budget time, so back in May, I think is when the last one was. This is just kind of an update of where we are, all the design and bid tasks that are going on. Some of the major ones that have kind of moved the most under external design projects. The very first one, Browns Ferry culvert replacement. We're going to be bringing an item to agenda meeting, or the council meeting this Monday to acquire the first of 2 tracks for that right-of-way acquisition to do that project. So we're hoping to bid that one very soon, hopefully in this fiscal year. The next one there, Mill Road Bank ditch and rehab. That's one that we're just got through a 60% plan review. We're working with our consultant on some different options for the wall. You can see the rest of those there. And there's some notes off to the side of kind of where the last status of those projects are. Several of these we either recently met or have a meeting on the books for the 30% plan review or 60% plan review from our consultant. That's where we are on all those.
Is the Hughes on Madison Pike intersection on here? I'm not sure. Is it the one
so
that is widening?
That's Hughes on Madison Pike realignment, so that's number 23010, about 2/3 of the way down.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, so that one's there. Right now it's at about 30% design. We may not be able to get it built the next year, but what we might do is look into going ahead and getting some right-of-way acquisition and utility relocation, kind of getting ready to bid that one once it is funded. So that's kind of where we're at on that one, because that one we want to prioritize that one. That one's
oh yeah,
that was a problem.
huge safety. So is that then not construction in 2023 or maybe even 24?
It's definitely not construction this year. So
okay.
2024, we may not be quite ready with the plans. This is kind of where I'm at on that. There's a lot of utilities to find and relocate and thread the needle and put new poles and
Sure.
And everybody's there. Windstream, Wow, Comcast, water, sewer, gas. I mean, everybody's there. Aerial and underground. So it's a big lift, and so it might not get done even in time to build for next year.
Okay.
We do want to go ahead and go through the process of getting the right of way acquired and working on some of that utility relocate.
Okay.
Any questions for Michael? Do you need time to?
Yeah, so just to let you guys know, so we met today. First, budgets are kind of starting at a discussion. What do we think we can get in the 24 budget, the 25 budget? A lot of it has to do with this. And we've also, Chief Katie helped us pull the top 10 intersections for accidents. So we're looking at that, trying to see if there's any, like the one you pulled out more, Hughes and Browns Ferry, Old Madison Pike, is absolutely one of the ones that we want to look at to see what we can do. So tying that together, by the time we get to next work session, we should be in a better position to kind of say, hey, here's what we think is going to be in the budget this year and then next year, and tie it together with what you'll see kind of the budget.
One of the things I'd like to do is, as we go through work sessions, to regularly get even this kind of an update, just a very brief update will help us understand where we are with projects a lot better. So if we could do just, make sure that we get those kind of updates on a regular basis, I would appreciate that.
We can make it happen.
Thank you.
Whether it's on the agenda or not.
Yeah, I would love that, even if it's not agenda.
Okay.
The Browns Ferry Berkeley roundabout, the design looks like it's about 85%. Do we have a plan for? I know we want to wait till the summer, not during school. So maybe next time?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
tried that baking soda before.
yeah. So that's just it. It's trying to figure, prioritize which ones are needs, for safety kind of thing, and then we have to figure out, okay, we make sure we cover the ones that are big safety needs, at least getting the ball rolling on those, and then we can figure out which ones we want to definitely, fund for the next year, and we've got it pretty good at it, which we want to do. And, that one, the fact that one's very far along in the design definitely helps out.
Now,
I also know that it's not sidewalk from Trailhead to County Heights is environmental. What is that?
So in mid-year, you guys put in some funding for us to kind of scope and align the possibility for that, to see where would it make sense to put that in. Does it make sense to put it in? Can we put it on the south side, the north side? Where do we take it? Do we take it back to county line and come back and come across? Do we find a mid-block crossing? What's the utility conflicts there? What kind of stormwater drainage conflicts are there? And so that's what they're working on. So we've actually got a meeting set up with those guys on that one.
That's what TTL is that?
TTL is the consultant.
Any other questions?
you said you had a list of the intersections that have the most accidents. Is that in our paperwork?
No, I've got that, I just recently got that.
Oh, okay.
Would you be able to share that with us?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just out of curiosity.
I think the top ones on that were ones that we don't have a lot of controls over. This road was 72 and that road was 72. So.
Yeah, I mean, the top one is Madison Boulevard and Sullivan Street. Second one is 72 and Walter Hammond. The third one is 72 and Hughes. And, so those are the bigger ones, and we'll get those to you.
72 in Hughes, if you could make it that people cannot do a U-turn to go to Starbucks, I think that'll take care of about 80% of the accidents. Personally, those folks that are doing a U-turn to go to Starbucks and crossing over 3 lanes, just throwing that out. Personal experience. I'm not going to Starbucks. I was not going to Starbucks. I was yelling at the person going to Starbucks.
Where is it? Okay.
If you guys have any other questions on these, you can shoot me an email or something like that. You can put the information.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move to updates on our paving plan.
So I also left you guys a list, our current 5-year plan where it stands on neighborhood paving. So the first page of that is where we're at for the current year, FY 2023. The green ones are complete. Those are ones that we've been able to get done this year. And then the yellow ones, there's a little color code up there, but the yellow ones are the ones that we're working on. We need to do some repairs before we go, and we're not going to resurface them if we know that they're going to cut them out. And then the orange colored ones are ones that have been checked by NU, or the repairs have been made and they're ready to go. We're just going to get together the paving that was out there. And so we feel pretty comfortable being able to finish these this fiscal year. We got behind with the neighborhood paving when we were on the same contract. We were piggybacking off the county contract. We were kind of not prioritized there, but we bid our own contract, and then we had to do kind of a priority on that one. So that's 2023, and then we can flip over to 2024. Got a pretty good list, 30,000 linear feet for that year, and then kind of goes on. We add them as people call, and we evaluate them and see where we can slot them in. If it needs to be done right away, we try to do that if we can. It's not always possible.
I think I may have a couple. I don't have any listed in 25, 26, fiscal year 25, 26, or 27. That's a long time to.
Well, and I don't want to not to jump ahead, but item B is the PACER study, and the last one of those was completed in 2020. We intend to start another one of those late next year, and so that kind of reset our 5-year plan. But this is sort of what we're at right now, but we do not have a plan to do that. So when we do that, it will necessarily reshuffle.
I just know there are a couple of streets by the apartments. Could I maybe go over there and take a picture and send it to you just for reference? Thank you.
Michael, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. The road resurfacing that we have, that's not like completely grind it down and resurface, but the one where we're patching, for trench failure, stuff like that. Where is that money coming out of this? How are we
That's more of a public works thing. What we're doing, what we do out of engineering is we have this neighborhood paving fund.
Yeah.
And so that's where we do these from, and then we also have a budget item for collector roads. And we do things like Eastview, like we're doing right now, or Hughes, or all over town. We have a different fund for that. As far as patching goes, and
With what you're talking about, we take the responsibility, so when everything comes in, so because it used to be, well, it's not ours, we take it, and we'll fix it. We go evaluate, fix based on priority, and then Madison Utilities, if it goes back to theirs, it gives us a bucket of money that we pull from each year to pay for some of their stuff, even though we do it. And I'm sure Ken could get us a list of stuff if you wanted it on.
No,
Okay, that's how that works.
no problem.
Some may need to take responsibility for what we've got and then we do it.
But if there is, an immediate issue, if, like trench failures, if you see one happening, if you'll let me know, I can forward that to Madison Utilities, and they can go in, fix the trench failure, Public Works will come behind it, and we can get the immediate need fixed, even if it's not on the neighborhood repaving thing, we can do those. And, I've seen them go out the same day if there was an issue that somebody sent a picture and we just forward it to them and they get it taken care of very quickly. So if you see something like that, please don't hesitate to let me know. Also, we had, Paul, earlier in the year, you know, my brain is a little scrambled, but we had talked about possibly putting in the next budget a little bit more money into the neighborhood repaving plan. Is that still kind of the way you're thinking?
It's definitely, yes, and we have monies that we will need to spend, and if we have our own contract now, we can, part of it would be, are we able to fit it into the bucket of what they can get done?
Right.
No sense of funding it if they're not gonna be able to get to it, yes. And then you've got collector roads that you're also looking to tie
Like a
together,
separate fund.
aren't even on this list. That is where some of that money will go, that he's looking at. So the answer is yes, we're gonna try to get more paving done right now while we can, and have a little bit of funding. And we'll document all of that in the budget, you'll be able to see. I've got a good list of collector roads.
yeah, I'll have a breakout of what collectors we're looking at for next year, and then this would be the breakout for neighborhood paving. But like I said, if something comes up and one that's just an absolute immediate need, we're usually able to find a way, okay, well, you know, tweak the, you know, what's the estimate look like, can we fit it in, and then we're usually able to do it if it's.
Thank you.
I'll tell you too, I mean, I've had to travel Eastview quite a bit, you guys have done a great job with the contractor and getting that traffic going through, you know, during peak time.
I'll pass the praise along, I'll take a little credit for that. It's a traffic control issue that we're in.
No, I mean, it was phenomenal.
There's not an easy way to close these views. So.
No, it's not. So, good job.
Any other questions? Thanks for
Thank you, Myra. You said next year we're getting a new pacer.
Yeah, we do that in-house, so we'll start that probably about this time next year. It takes about 3 months, depending on the local workload. We prefer to do that in-house. We would much rather do it in-house, not just for cost savings, but just so we can get our eyes on which ones we need. So that's the intent, is for us to do it in-house.
So July-ish next year.
This is when we start it.
Okay, thank you. And next, mural guidelines.
Thank you, Michael.
Your last,
Here comes trouble.
the art of the microphone. I'll teach a class. At your last work session, we discussed the mural guidelines and some changes that, were of interest to people. After the work session, we sent the mural guidelines out to MVP again and to the Arts Alliance, got feedback. You all received an email about that. The version of the guideline that's before you is what was emailed to you. It reflects the latest changes. Happy to answer any questions. I will say that if you decide that you're ready for this to move forward, if it's of interest to you, then we'll move into like a formal production of the ordinance preparation and figuring out if this will reside in the municipal ordinance or if it will reside in the zoning code and go through those approval processes. We haven't spent that time yet, but we will do that if you decide to move forward.
Does anyone have any questions? Very bad. You want to highlight just briefly
Sure.
the big changes that?
Sure. One of the big changes was to reduce limit the area where murals would be allowed based upon the conversation last time. We had originally written it to allow it in any commercial area effectively in the city. Most of the city's commercial areas north of Madison Boulevard are B2 or B3. So we've taken that out. So the murals would only be allowed in the downtown B1. There are a few B1 properties on Hughes Road, but very few, and those will ultimately get rezoned. But B1 downtown, Town Madison, which already allows graphics because they have their own sign plan, and then the commercial areas of the T&D districts, which is the Village of Oakland Springs. We also did reach out to the Slimans, the developers of the Village of Oakland Springs, had them review the ordinance or the draft language, and they're fine with it. It would still have to go through their architectural review board, just like anything that's proposed in Town Madison has to go through their architectural review board before it would come to the city. So that was the biggest change, was a limit, not allowing them in the rest of the commercial areas of the city. If you go forward with this, it could always be added on if you think it's working well. We addressed the board composition item. We checked in with the Arts Alliance, didn't make any changes there. The Arts Alliance did indicate that they thought the murals should be allowed for a longer period of time, 7 to 10 years, because of the cost of the murals. We had originally had 3 to 5 years, so we've changed it 3 to 7. We don't want to mandate that somebody has to have a mural for a 7-year period. 3 seemed pretty reasonable to us as a starting point. And 10 just seemed a little bit long given turnover in businesses and frankly a change in public opinion. And so, but we're not falling on a sword on that one. So if you want to allow them for a different time period, that's fine.
Mary Beth, can we go back to that one before? The mayor and city council will nominate and appoint 5 members for a term of 4 years with staggered terms. Love the staggered terms. I think you missed the vote with staggered terms with the police advisory committee. I think that would help. But how are we going to just submit names to you and you're going to decide, or how are we?
We haven't gotten into the nuts and bolts of that. So that portion of this ordinance will reside within the municipal ordinance because that's where all of your boards and commissions live. So when we figure that language out specifically for the municipal ordinance, we'll address it. It can be however you decide.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So those were the primary changes that we made. The version that you have in front of you only reflects the changes since the last time. You recall the previous version, we had addressed a number of maintenance questions and items and such. So happy to answer any other questions.
And you said the Arts Alliance was happy with this?
So the Arts Alliance provided comments. As I mentioned, I inquired to them about would they want to be on the Mural Advisory Board. They politely declined, but as I said, that they'd be happy to help find members to populate that board. They did suggest that time period, the 7 to 10 years that I already addressed. One of their other items was on mural content, which we've not changed in here, wanting to know if there was more flexibility about, say, a mural representing an organization. They gave the example of a Boys and Girls Club, or if it could have wording, because back in the day, Coca-Cola used to be on. We have to be really careful because once we open that door for some benign something, we open the door to everything. And you could have a mural for Boys and Girls Club without it saying Boys and Girls Club. You could have kids on it, right? I mean, it's very easy to do and still stay within what we think are safe guidelines. So we didn't make any change to mural content. They did ask if the maintenance plan could be coordinated with them And we didn't include that either. One of the reasons that they stated, well, the reason that they stated they didn't want to be on the mural advisory board was that they're going to be probably working closely with businesses and kind of helping these murals go along. So we felt to require that a business coordinate with them was maybe a conflict of interest if they're already going to be that involved. And that's frankly the role of the Mural Advisory Board. So we didn't include that either. But we appreciated them bringing all these things up because it gave us an opportunity to think about them and the mechanics of this and how this is going to really play out. And I think that Rosalie, I can hear,
Yeah.
I don't know who she is, but yeah.
Adam as well, and Willow.
Yeah, so.
Hey, council, are you ready to discuss whether you'd like to move forward with an ordinance or?
I want to move forward. I mean, these two changes, I'm good with moving forward.
Okay, so I'm gonna, Brian and I are gonna get together and figure out if we want, the mural piece to reside in the zoning ordinance, or if it just stays in the municipal code. If we go through the zoning ordinance, then we'll have to bring that change to the planning commission before it comes to you. If it just resides in the municipal ordinance, it'll just come to the council. I'm kind of, I think, wanting to keep it just in the municipal ordinance, to keep it separate from signs, but haven't really gotten into that legally. So we'll figure out what that process will be and be back whenever we have that ready.
Hey, Mary Beth, so which one of those presents itself where it's less political and more, I mean, if it resides in a zoning ordinance opposed to
The municipal ordinance.
municipal ordinance, I mean,
Well, it ultimately still is going to rest with that mural advisory board making, a decision. And so whether it's in the municipal ordinance or the zoning ordinance, I don't know if that itself is going to be a determinant. But again, I mean, I'm thinking about it, I've been thinking about it. I can see it going both ways. So I'm just going to punt and say we're going to work on
that's fine, I mean, if there's anything we can do to, keep it out of the court of public opinion, if you will.
Yeah.
That'd be the thing.
it. Well, we haven't really talked about, is there an appeal process? Usually there's an appeal process for a board and commission, and what does that look like? And so there's some of those nuts and bolts that we'll get into just to make sure we're covering legal ground and that you've got a solid ordinance wherever it resides.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thank you.
Okay, next we had on our agenda the Science Museum, but the mayor has an update on that.
Yeah, I'll give you an update and then it ties into a little bit of miscellaneous, if that's okay to keep going. So, we had that on the agenda, hoping, the bottom line is what's going to fill up building 23A that has already been purchased, that we know will have a fire and a police presence. And we are not ready to come forward to even talk about the Science Museum because that always was if there is space. And from a budgeting standpoint, but also in the hiring of now Gerald Smith, who's facilities director, we're stripping that back to the chassis of City Hall, Building 23A, the old Public Works facility on Celtic, and the bottom line is how do we use the assets that we have to spread out in the most efficient way to give fire and police everything that they need, more space here at City Hall, and utilize the old Public Works facility in the best possible way. So Gerald is helping with all of those things, working with all of our different departments, and within the next 1 to 2 weeks, we feel like he'll come back and give us a good idea of what works for the different departments. An example I would give you is we, in the budget, talked about hardening City Hall. To do that, we want to move the metal detector to the front door and have a full-time presence while City Hall is open. We also have the building, the entrance downstairs. Well, does it make sense to possibly look to utilize some of 23A, free up some more space where the folks that are downstairs are ones that don't necessarily meet with the public, IT being one, some of the other folks, and move everybody upstairs here where where the only time you need to go downstairs is for, something else. So that's one of the things that's coming in. The old public works facility, one of the things I always heard, what about the electrical? You basically just need to tear it down. It's dangerous, we just can't use it. Well, we need the base, we need some of the other stuff. What's it cost to just strip it and then put all the electrical in there and still be able to use that? Lastly, 23A, not sprinkled. Fire, obviously going to be sprinkled. You can do firewall. If you don't do a lot of other things, the outside of it, based on our code, we have a lot of flexibility. So we're looking at all of those things, and I guess to come back is by next month, we should be able, a lot of it you guys have already funded, we're just trying to stretch the money and maximize value for our folks in the best possible way. So more to follow in how we're going to use those things. Other thing we have is Sullivan Street, where the old gym was there, and the old Board of Education. Still struggling to think that that's something that we need. If we free that up, do we just sell it as is? Do we take it all down and then sell it that way? Or is there any possible use for City Hall? We'll have all those decisions ready for you guys in the next couple of, I say next month and a half.
So that's the gym next to the central office area?
Correct.
That
It's down there.
has a
Just,
road.
we're not using them.
Right.
Yeah, that's coming down regardless because of just the problems that we have. The Board of Education is telling us that's not a facility that we have to have. From that standpoint, that's land that if we sold, we could put back into other projects, and that's one of the things we're looking at. All right. Also, just wanted to kind of go over real quickly HR, and we met with individually with our HR committees. We met with each one of them individually and talked through a lot of the things that Megan and her team are working on when it comes to retention and recruitment. One of the things that we feel like will most likely come out of that is the request to council to do some sort of formal study. It wasn't done previously. It was done, I think, back in maybe 08, 07. When Terry was here 2 years ago, we talked about doing it, and Terry basically said, and I think we fully agreed with her at the time, let me just do them one at a time as we see where we need to. And I think she did a good job of starting that process. But we're at the point now where we really need all of City Hall looked at, what's the best way to do things to continue to retain and recruit. So maybe we'll hopefully come to you guys at some point with the ability to do that. It's been a 4 to 5 to 6 month process. In between that time, we're working on making sure we can fill every entry-level position that we possibly can, looking at out-of-the-box stuff and partnerships and doing different things with people. And then our 24 budget, we're already working on, but again, with a step increase to start with, holding the insurance costs as best we can, hopefully like they have been before. And then, of course, we all like to talk about COLA and continue down that process while looking ahead to how do we take care of everybody in the right possible way. So just some stuff that's come out of there that we'll follow back up on, and that will probably be 2 main things today.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So we will postpone the Science Museum discussion for a future work session if necessary. And we also wanted to discuss and get an update and some feedback on redistricting. Mary Beth wanted to give those of you who couldn't attend Monday night just a brief synopsis.
So there was a presentation by the city's consultants, Slaughter and Associates, on Monday evening. They went over their Plan 1. You all have received basically a printed copy of the PowerPoint presentation that was given on Monday. That PowerPoint presentation is now available on the city's website. I do have Plan 1 over there if we need to refer to it for any reason. One of the comments that and discussion. Oh, thank you. Can't live without a pen. One of the things that was talked about, some of the council members who were there had some questions about some of the district boundaries, not wanting to lose certain constituents. There was also some comments from the audience that those districts that are going to grow further, such as the West Side or even Town Madison, that those should be a little bit on the lower side, right, to anticipate the fact that there's going to be more growth. If you've looked at the draft plan right now, they do have District 3 at almost 5% below, District 4 at 4.1% below. However, District 2 is right at 4.9%, so it's not really that low. But District 3 and District 4 definitely got some room for growth there. Whether or not the consultant can bring those numbers down a little bit more is something that they could look at. So what the consultant discussed and encouraged is if council members have some specific areas, let's say, that they don't want to lose, and that they could demarcate those on a plan, send them over to me, I'll get them to the consultant, or if you want to send me some email bullets about, hey, what about this area, just any comments that you might have, send them my way. The other thing that we've discussed is in terms of schedule, on August 14th, we were looking to possibly have the public hearing on this, but based upon some of the commentary, what we're thinking we would do on August 14th is have a working session in which the consultant will bring their computer. Everything is based on census blocks, and real time make adjustments to the district boundaries so that you and the audience could see, hey, if we, move District 3 this way, or District 5, or whatever district, right, this is what happens to the numbers. So if you're interested in doing that, it would be on the 14th, it would be before the city council meeting. We're thinking like 4 to 5:30. And then that means that the public hearing would get moved to August 28th. And then the council adoption of the plan would get moved into September. I know our consultant's not available on September 11th. He may not need to be here for the actual adoption of the plan because by then I think all of his work will be over. But if you all wanted him to be here, then we would look at adoption at the last meeting in September. So one of the things I'm interested to find out from you is if you'd like to do this working session in which they're doing the computer and kind of really make some adjustments.
Yes.
Okay, so that, please, mark your calendars for the 14th. We would have, I think we'll end up having the meeting in here. That's what I've talked about with Lisa. We know it's a council meeting day, but it's a public meeting, so we'll just transition. And then the other thing is if you could, any thoughts you have, I would say by August 1st, if that's reasonable, if you can send them over to me, and that way it's possible the consultant might be able to come up with a plan 2, right? This was plan 1. Maybe they'll do a plan 2 before the meeting. And just as a reminder, some of the things, some of their standards are to respect the fact that where you all live, right? You're in District 1, District 7, what have you, is you stay in your district. And so when you look at the red dots on those maps, which represent the residences of each of you, that presents some challenges. And so that was that's probably one of the biggest items that they have. And they also try to keep people's district as intact as possible. So he made a mention that John's district, District 7, is already balanced. It's the only one in the city that's already balanced. So there's really no need to really change it. So, but you could change District 6, right? And you could change the other districts around it, but to try to leave his intact. Well, if you do that, it forces other districts to change, and those council members maybe weren't so happy about some of that. And so, if John doesn't mind his district changing, then, District 6 and 5 change in a certain way, but then it creates a domino effect to District 7. So it'd be helpful to me to know if you care, if your district boundary changes in any dramatic way. And, and so anyway, I appreciate it, and if you have any questions or comments, let me know.
So we'll go ahead and get the updated information to Samantha, add it to the
Yes.
website, make sure you get all that out there too.
We will, yes. Because right now our website reflects a public hearing date on the 14th, and we'll just change that to the public working session on the 14th.
And Mary Beth, if people, citizens of Madison, want to comment,
Mhm.
propose another map?
Mhm.
Are they supposed to just come to our council members, or do they go through you, or is there a place for them to submit suggestions?
We haven't set up like a portal for that. They can certainly contact you and then you can share it with me and I can ultimately get it to our consultant. They can drop it off at the planning department. They can email it to me. Any of the above is fine. I just ask if we're gonna get comments, if we could get them by the 1st, because if we want the council or the consultant to try and take a stab at another plan before he comes on the 14th, that would give them some time to maybe do that. Yes, if that's,
Feedback to.
yeah, and, yeah.
Does anybody else have any comments or observations or anything they want to share about the original plan?
My biggest concern is that the areas of growth are still in the largest districts in these, according to these numbers. The districts that have the least possibility of growth are, the smallest districts or some of the smallest districts according to this plan. So that concerns me when I see, like for instance, District 2 had to be cut by 42% this time. As I look at this plan, I see 10 years from now as being in this same place where there are drastic changes to some districts and some districts don't change at all. And that's not really fair to the citizens.
Yeah, so the consultant will, work on the plan. The east side of Madison is much more dense than the west side of Madison, generally speaking. And so you can get 8,000 people on the east side in a much more small area than you can on the west side right now. But going forward, if there is more development in the west side, right, then that could change.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the growth
Yeah.
in Madison and how it's happened. And I feel like this is short-sighted to have all of the potential growth areas still not factored. Because based on this, I don't feel like those potential growth areas have been considered as fully as I'd like for them to be considered.
Well, I think, again,
What would be your alternative that you would suggest? Would you like undersize maybe?
Well, I realize there can only be a 10% deviation, so there's only so much you can do that. But I would say that
Give yourself
the
about
districts
6%
that
growth.
have the most potential for growth
Yeah.
should be, on the lower side, whereas the ones that have the least potential for growth should be kind of not maxed out, but kind of on the upper side. And so I know there's only a few hundred probably that you can move, but I do think that makes a difference. I mean, currently my district is over 11,000 people. We've got 7 districts in the city of 60,000 people. Do you think the citizens feel like they have, over 11,000 people have one person, whereas maybe 5,000 people have one person? Are they getting the same representation? That's what I'm looking at.
So, right, and
The best we can do is what I'm looking for. I know it's not going to be perfect. It's going to change in 10 years, but I just feel like this is a good first step, but we could tweak it a little bit more and maybe get it a little bit better.
So you want to get growth models on our own too.
yeah, that's not something that the consultants really looked at. They do, as I said, some of the growth districts 3 and 4 are on the low side, right? They're in negative, if you will. District 2 is at 4.9, I believe. But yeah, we can certainly, and he heard that at the meeting on Monday because we had a couple of citizens bring it up, and he, indicated that they'll definitely look at that, and we'll get with them on that.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, they came up with this plan looking at their census data, and
I understand.
so, yeah.
So do they look at it as a number of population, or do they look at it as number of voters?
It's the population.
is, I mean, I agree with you, you know, about trying to represent the number of population, but like, I'll just give you an instance, in my district, you get maybe somewhere between 600 and 800 people that vote. And you know, and so, and part of that is because you have lots of apartments, you have lots of industrial and commercial areas. My area is, you know, the same as another area, it's just not densely. For instance, Mars really is very densely populated with voters. So that's what I'm wondering if they look at it.
Yeah, they have to look at it at total population, that's the law. When you get a chance to look at the presentation on page 21, this is where they presented the numbers that are on the plan, and it shows, you know, what
Percentage loss and gain.
it is. It shows you how they are relative to the benchmark. Well, this lower table shows you the voting population. It's based upon total, but this does show you the voting population. Yeah. Yes, it is.
Because regardless if they voted, we still represent them.
What I hear you saying though is, if districts 2 and 4 are like the primary ones shown to grow, what I'm hearing you say is you'd rather those be undersized by 10% towards the minimum, so that you've got the most room for growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
The changes 10 years later are not as drastic. And then
Correct.
the others maybe have a little margin for growth, but not as much as those districts. That's what I'm hearing you say.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, and I think the
That's
You
one
did
measure.
it very well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say.
And I think the consultant got that too, and it would also be District 3 because of the town Madison growth as well.
You wouldn't imagine that Mars district at this point grow much more than John, because a lot of that's filled in.
Exactly.
Mine's
Right.
It's gonna be maybe mine.
Right. Yeah, they had to start somewhere.
Right. And I think for a plan two, where Connie is sitting at 4.9 above, she'd like to be 4.9 below,
Yes.
because we can see where all the potential growth is.
And so I think that, you know,
Let's just say District 2, not Connie.
Okay, sorry. District two.
Well, along with say mine's.
Whoever it is, they're gonna be dealing with this.
right, and I think it's,
You know what I'm saying?
if I'll say council in general, is open to district boundaries changing in somewhat.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Sorry.
They need to change.
Yes, I was gonna say in some dramatic fashion. Yeah.
That's Madison, not us.
Right.
It's gotta be working best for the city, period.
Right. So again, one of their typical, right, so their normal operating mode is to try and keep districts as similar as possible. So that's just their practice. And so what we're hearing is you guys are open to that, thinking long-term.
Redraw.
Yes,
Redraw those lines and make it fair.
Which again, just so we know, at the meeting Monday night, we had one council person who was adamant that nothing should change.
yeah,
I understand that, I'm just telling you what, you know, so that's how they start. Now you guys have given, hey, this is what we as a majority would like to see, and that gives more flexibility to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, which is what we needed to move it forward. So thank you.
Represent the city. We don't represent, I don't just represent District 3. I mean, that's my job, but overall, we're doing what's best for the city. So if my district has to change, or this district has to change, District 3, and that puts some kind of burden on the person that's running for office, that's their problem. That's not the citizens' problem.
well, this is great feedback. I think it'll be really helpful to the consultant to be able to move forward.
And one thing that you need to keep in mind is, you know, you say you don't want to drastically change districts. Well, District 2, no matter what, drastically changes.
No, I didn't say we didn't want to drastically change. I'm just saying that there will be some drastic change. And so the consultants, I think his normal practice is normally members don't want that. So he's just trying to respect what he's typically seeing.
And I don't think a lot of cities grow in the crazy fashion that we have grown either.
No doubt.
And so, I understand and appreciate what he was trying to do, and like I said, I think this is a good first try, but, now we have some more information.
Yeah,
it would be interesting to see a map that didn't take, keeping those district lines as close as possible, just a pure computer generated, numbers generated, what's the ideal situation without keeping our boundaries. Like
You mean regardless of where you live, or?
Well, I mean,
We have to keep where we live because we
You have
don't
to
have a
keep-
special election.
right, you have to keep us where we live, but if he wasn't being held to those district boundaries,
I see.
that would be interesting.
Yeah, okay, got you. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, any other miscellaneous announcements?
I just have one picture I'd like to show. Okay, so this is a roundabout, which looks fabulous. Thank you to Public Works and Tidewater for mowing it. That looks like grass, and it's not grass, it's really just a whole bunch of weeds. And so I wanted to ask if we could look at maybe Tidewater, and I talked with Greg about this a little bit since he's the liaison for Public Works, of doing something there to make it look better. If I could have taken a picture a week ago, you would have seen something that doesn't look as nice. Maybe colored rocks, something like that. I did mention it to Steve. He wanted to hold off until we had all the roundabouts done, all 4 of them, so that they would be uniform in appearance. But I would really like this, and like I said, it looks great right there, and it really doesn't look that good. I mean, John and Connie, you guys drive by it, you see that it's a whole bunch of weeds. So we've got a fair amount of council special project funds. If we can look at maybe doing something there. Not, excuse me, sorry. Not pavers, the beautification committee suggested pavers. I don't think that would be a good idea. I'd be afraid people would drive through the middle of it. So I just wanted to get feedback on what you all thought for making that look a little bit better. So it looks great in the
Other
picture.
than if you just sodded it with like a meter grass, I don't think anything else you should do.
Okay,
That's my opinion. I mean, I drove around it an hour ago, they drove through it today or last night or something. So if you put rocks in, somebody got through it,
right.
they can get hurt, like no reason. If you put shrubs and trees in, you can't see through it.
Oh,
So
yeah, we don't want to do that. Not
I think that you
trees.
just sod it if you want to do anything to clean
What
it out.
about like wildflowers or?
It's not irrigated.
There's no irrigation.
There's no irrigation, but wildflowers grow on 72 in the median. I know
That's
it's
a
all.
3 to 5 year deal.
No, I'm just gonna say one thing we are doing is we have multiple shrubs and bushes in historic downtown Madison, and we will be replacing, is it next council meeting we're approving that? Yeah. So we're asking council for approval of changing out all those bushes downtown that were killed by the cold weather. So that for sure we'll do, and then if you want to have a discussion on this later, how you guys want to go.
Yeah, even if it's just like a perimeter and some sod, just something we spent so much on it, and like I said, it looks really good in that picture, but give it a week or two and it won't
Can we
lose
get
it.
some cost information?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Right, would you be able to do that since you're doing that for the downtown area? Just like you suggested, sod and shrubs. Sod and maybe just a few shrubs.
Yeah, I want to do shrubs.
No shrubs, just sod.
The problem with shrubs
Oh,
that
they
I
have to
can
be watered.
see is, well, not only that, but depending on how tall your car is, and how tall
Oh,
the
right.
car is on the other side, if you get shrubs in there,
Right. They have
you
to
know,
be.
that could be.
I like the sod idea.
Just sod.
Can't get it removed.
Once you get a small.
So Greg,
I did, I talked to Steve.
okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
One question I had, so, talked a little bit to Greg about this today. I got an update from Sandy Patel on the Dublin, Park, fitness track that he is working. And he has raised already, $2,200. He's expecting a Rotary grant, to come in, he said within the next week or two for that, and that's about 2/3 of the cost. Talked to Corey earlier, I'd like to throw this by the group to see if we would either match what he's got or just fulfill that delta, to go ahead and get that project finished and see if we can get that done before the end of the fiscal year.
Get us a number on.
You can do it by September 30th, that's when we gotta
I need to close
send
it.
it by.
I know, well, we gotta, pay the bills on it. I need to get the details from Sandy, but I wanted to get just head nods from you guys as to whether y'all even support that or not, because that's, then I wanna go back to Sandy and go, hey, can you give a call, let's see what we can do here, and if we indeed can get this done, and then come back for sure going, hey, yeah, all right, we got a schedule, we understand what needs to be done, we can do that. Yeah, I think I mean, I'd like to say not to exceed 2,500 at the most.
That's easy.
But, I
I
mean,
mean, if it's that, you know,
that's all I'm thinking.
yeah, if it's that, then let's just do it, for me.
Well, the other part is, like
Think about
Renee said, I mean, we gotta have to spend, so I gotta make sure he's got stuff that can actually do that, and I know Corey, when I was talking to Corey, he mentioned now is actually a really good time for his folks. You remember, they were gonna dig and pour the pads, now's actually a downtime for them, that they could actually do that and get this thing expedited like that. So, that'll be a great value for that area to have that. If y'all are good with it, I'll get in touch with Sandy and see if we can get confirmation.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, and we're under an hour for our work session. Thank you all, and thank you everyone who provided presentations and information. No other announcements, we're adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Very good.
Great.